Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to ReelQuick episode 222. So today we have ReelTok 150. Now we have 222 on the ReelQuick. So big numbers this week. Today we're going to be doing a Christopher Nolan collaborative ranking. This was recommended by patron James Palma, and he won the polls. It's just me and George today, as the other fellas are traveling right now to New York City to be in person with all of us for the week ahead. So to confirm, George and I got their backs. We're going to be doing this real quick, just us two, of collaborative ranking Christopher Nolan movies. So he has 12 films. One thing, let us know if you want to see this in the comments down below. Some patrons recommended doing a Christopher Nolan and Denis Villeneuve combined collaborative ranking of all their films together. I think it could be really fun, and we would save that for when we have all four of us, or at least three of us. But for now, we're going to be doing just the 12 Christopher Nolan films. And at the very bottom of the screen, you can see what the drafters are going to be doing in this one. So there's drafter A, which has picks 1, 4, 6, 8, 11, and 12, and 2 vetoes. And they get 2 vetoes because first place isn't really a pick because he has 12 films. So once you pick the other 11, by default, the 1 is already placed there. And then 12 and 11, a little lower value movies. And 12, I think we both agree for sure what 12 would be. I think 99.9% of the world agrees what 12 would be. So drafter A has 2 picks that are a little less meaningful, but they get the 2 vetoes. Drafter B gets 2, 3, 5, 7, 9, and 10, and 1 veto. So Jordan, I'm just gonna let you pick. What do you want to be, drafter A or drafter B? You're gonna spin it on you. We're not even do a wheel. You get to pick as you're hosting us this week.
Oh man,
big wedding guy this week. As this episode comes out, we're 48 hours away from your wedding. So what do you want, drafter A or B? Do you want the more vetoes but less impactful picks, maybe, or do you want less veto but the meaty picks?
I mean, I want the meaty picks, and I think I'm going to go with B because I trust, and I hope my trust is warranted, that you're not going to be like an ass and call The Dark Knight out at number 12 and immediately make me use my veto.
Mm-hmm. We'll see, but I'm going to be getting picks 1, 4, 6, 8, 11, and 12, and 2 vetoes. George will have 2, 3, 5, 7, 9, and 10, and 1 veto. But the reason I said pick one for sure, or the first pick in terms of what the number one movie will be, is for sure a wasted pick because the other 11 are picked. You don't have a choice. You have to put a movie there. But I was saying 12 is basically a wasted pick because I think everyone is going to agree Following is going to go in last place. Yeah. So I think that's just kind of a free placement, unless you want to use your veto here, you have one. But Following, I think, is not a bad movie. I will forever say that Christopher Nolan has no misses. He's never made a bad movie. But this is one I watched when I was trying to complete his filmography. And I'm sure I would get more from it now and like rewatching it, but I just have never, and even though it's only like 70 minutes, I just have never been like, I'm going to give Following a rewatch. So that's where I'm putting it. I don't know if you have anything else to add, but I think it's a pretty safe 12 pick.
Yeah, that's you poll 100 people, 99 of them probably have Following at 12, and that's no disrespect to the movie. It's just where
it's got to be. Yeah,
it's just where it is.
But number 11 is where I'm going to get a little different than where people think I expect to go, and the movie people expect to go here, I don't have much higher than this. But personally, if I had to put them head to head, I have the one I'm going to be playing lower, even though I have them rated the same, because I think Following is the only fine movie Christopher Nolan has. I think every other movie is good, great, or all-timer. So these next 2 movies I think are good. But one I just like a little more, mainly because the performance is at play. So I'm going to put it at 11, just a movie that I think is a little too messy, that I still get entertainment out of. But I'm going to go The Dark Knight Rises at 11. A movie that I think has a lot of positives going through it. I still think it's a good movie. I think I give it a 3.5 still, which is the same I give what I have personally at number 10 that people might have expected to play there. But I just think there's a little messiness here, or a lot of messiness here. Bane is cool. I think Talia al Ghul is a character. I think the ending wasn't completely satisfying the ending of the Alfred and Christian Bale, very satisfying. I mean, more like the third act of what really is the third act of like this whole trilogy. Love Catwoman in this. I just think this is like a movie that clearly had to get derailed a bit with the unfortunate passing of Heath Ledger. That had to change some of the narratives. And it's like Christopher Nolan's last comic book movie. So he really like threw, he's like, I got to get Catwoman in here. I'm getting Bane in here. I'm tying up the backstory of the Al Ghul's, having like a arc where Bruce Wayne has to, get pummeled down and build himself back up, all with the same while of like Gotham being overrun and this atomic bomb going off. Like there's just so much here. A lot of cool, like I still think it's a good movie and I still get a lot of fun out of it, but that's where I'm putting it at 11. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, this is 10th in my Nolan ranking, so I don't mind the 11th place. I say this all the time. I think this script and a less capable filmmaker would be like the worst movie ever, potentially. Because I don't obviously think its flaws are credited to, the way the movie looks and the set pieces and the performances. I think it's entirely narrative based and just some very interesting narrative decisions being made that I think I care less for the more and more I watch this film. So yeah, it's my number 10. I agree with everything you said. It's a messy movie, but I have that Batman bias. I love Christian Bale in the role. I love Tom Hardy in the role. I love the addition of Anne Hathaway. I think there are some really, really brilliant Batman moments, but they are few and far between, and they are drowning in just narrative chaos. So I'm not going to veto that. I'm going to leave that at 11.
Still a perfect ending, though. The whole, like, one day I'll be sitting in a cafe and look over and give you a nod. Like, one of the best endings of a movie, period.
Yeah.
Which Christopher Nolan always home run out of the park. His
knows how to end his movie, knows how to begin his movie. Because even the beginning.
Oh, yeah. The beginning with the plane.
The plane, and then it leads right into the fundraiser at Wayne Manor, and it builds up, like, the mystique about, like, where is Bruce Wayne 10 years later. I think it's brilliant. Everything in the middle, not as great. Yeah, the whole
the not cinema sins it, but the whole plot device of, like, let's get all the cops in the tunnel just to be like, why is there no cops up in Gotham? It's like, oh, because they're all trapped in the tunnel. It's like, it was such like a lazy kind of way of just like, shit, what are we gonna do with all the cops? They'll clearly shut the shit down so fast. Like, let's just throw every single Gotham police officer in a tunnel and just collapse it. It's like, they're out of here. Also, like, the whole Robin thing with Joseph Gordon-Levitt was a little silly too. Like, there's just like a lot of this movie that's like, he threw so much at this movie to try and
the Robin stuff. Like, the thing is, I understand the criticisms. Like it would have been better if, like, just don't name drop Robin. Just let us contemplate it and let it be a point of conversation. Like, was it Robin? Was it not Robin? But, like, I can't fault it because, like, the whole trilogy is so unbelievably grounded, and it's believable that in this universe, like, Batman wouldn't actually have a Robin. Like, he wouldn't. So, like, I think in the context of, like, Nolan's Batman universe, it makes sense because, like, maybe in this case, Robin is just a do-good investigator that is a Batman fanatic, and, like, it works, but, like, it doesn't work. I don't know how to describe it. Like,
no, it makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, Batman would not have a Robin in this universe, and if he did, it would come in the form of Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character. So, like, I don't know. I don't love the decision. I wish they just never name dropped Robin, but it is very interesting.
All right, you get picks 10 and 9. I think I know where you're going to go at 10, but let's hear it.
Yeah, I mean, 10, I'm going to, my 10th ranked is Dark Knight Rises, so I'll toss my 11th ranked out, which is Insomnia. Again, kind of just falls into the same category as, like, Following. I don't think this is a bad movie by any means. I think it's, like, a very respectable outing in Christopher Nolan's filmography. I think Al Pacino and Robin Williams is such an interesting duo, and I at face value and on paper, maybe that's not something that should or would work, but I think they go back and forth really, really well in this film. I love the homicide detective approach. I think it makes for a lot of, like, very anxious sequences, very, like, nail biting stuff. And I just think it's a very, like, I think it's very cool aesthetically because it really does have, like, it doesn't look like a Christopher Nolan movie. He's built up this brand of being, like, a very clean, meticulous filmmaker, where I feel like Insomnia is just a little bit more, I don't think grimy is the right word, but it's just a little more, like, grounded in its aesthetic. And I do appreciate that. So I'm going to toss Insomnia out at 10. Anything you want to say before I jump to 9?
No, just the reason I give it the edge over The Dark Knight Rises is just, like, if I ever was going to revisit a Nolan film, The Dark Knight Rises, the only time I ever see myself watching that again would be, like, if I decide to revisit the whole trilogy. Whereas Insomnia, I guess he wanted to revisit because of Al Pacino and Robin Williams being toe to toe with such an interesting duo that I could see myself wanting to revisit again. But you get number 9 as well.
Yeah, so this now my Nolan bias is coming into play. Everything above 9 is either a 4.5 or a 5. This is where I start to really fucking love this dude. So, like, I won't even be upset if you start to, like, veto things immediately. But it's actually, let me rephrase that. My top 5 are like so fucking good, and then 6, 7, 8, and 9 for me are very interchangeable. My 9 is Memento, and I think a big reason why Memento is my 9 is because it's probably the Nolan movie I haven't seen in the longest amount of time. So I think I'm just due for a rewatch. I only have positive thoughts and fond memories of watching this film. I think the last time I watched this film was probably senior year of college when me and my roommates were running through Nolan's filmography. And I remember just sitting on the couch, obviously a little high, watching Memento, and we were just all like in just such a state of like mind blownness. And I think Guy Pearce does such a beautiful job in this film. And again, it kind of falls into that like Insomnia category of just being like very aesthetically different from like the Interstellars and the Inceptions and the Oppenheimers and the Tenets of the world. So yeah, but Memento is going to be that number 9 for me.
Yeah, for me, Memento's at 7. So higher than you, but not high, not a big enough difference for me to feel like I want to use my veto. I have vetoes I'm hoping to use for other things that might come up, but Memento really like. I know a lot of people really love this. I know people that I really respect have this really high in their Nolan rankings. And again, is that 7 for me? But like, I don't know. It's just like Christopher Nolan has so many great films. It's like hard to, it's not a slight to Memento at all. I think Memento is a clear step up from Insomnia, The Dark Knight Rises, and following. Like we go to a new tier here. But this is like lower end on like the great tier for me, but still great. Guy Pearce is awesome. Happy to see him do so well in The Brutalist because he is someone that just kind of got forgotten, that delivers his A game every time. And this is one that when you watch the first time, much like many Christopher Nolan films, kind of melts your brain. And the Sammy Jenkins, that story just heartbreaking. An entire film as you watch it unwind, the story of revenge and grief and forgetting, really well done. And it's the second film ever after Following. You see a lot of the ideas he wants to do in Memento in Following, and you see a lot of ideas he has in Memento and later films as well. So it's just like very essential early stage Nolan that influences a lot of the work to come from him. But yeah, again, not going to veto just because I don't have it that much higher than you. So what I do have at number 9 is The Dark Knight. And is there even a point to put it up there? Or are you going to be using your veto there?
I'm going to be using my veto. There's no way you have it at 9, dude.
Again, I give it a...
I know.
I just love Nolan, man. We're Nolan Glazers.
Yeah, we are. Listen, I'm happy you're still a Nolan Glazer, all right? I'm not happy that his best movie is in 9th place.
That's fair, but what's actually going to go in 8th place now, since your veto is gone, is what I think for a collaborative ranking makes more sense being here. But I know also if I would have just picked this movie instead of throwing out The Dark Knight first, people would be like, wow, Tyler's not even going by his own rankings. He's just trying to be nice to George because it's his wedding.
No, I want you to be honest to yourself.
Yeah, okay? But I think, again, in terms of a collaborative ranking, I think this works better here, even though technically I think a lot of people would have Memento higher, but Batman Begins, when we're putting at 8, I think that's clearly behind The Dark Knight in terms of most people's rankings. To me, Batman Begins is my favorite of the Nolan trilogy. But again, I think I'm going to be fascinated to revisit the Nolan trilogy one day because Batman. So when I first got Letterboxd, one of the first things I did, because on film Twitter, everyone was talking comic book movies as my first introduction to people like you, HZ Joe, like all these people, like Andrew Visuals, like early days of when there wasn't all these creators. That's what I was getting on my feed. So I was like, I want to be in this community. I want to be a part of them. I don't watch any comic book movies. I've barely seen any. I've seen like Iron Man 1 at this point. Didn't see Endgame or Infinity War in theaters, nothing like that. So I went through, and when I first got Letterboxd, I watched every single MCU movie. And immediately after MCU, I wanted to dive into DC. So I watched every MCU movie all the way through every phase, watch all the shit like Ant-Man and the Wasp type shit. Actually, no, that came later, but
type shit.
And then immediately after watching every MCU movie over like a week of just watching nothing but MCU, I dove into Batman Begins. And that feeling of going from some of the garbage MCU projects to Christopher Nolan Batman Begins opening in that like village with the fire with him and Liam Neeson. Like I was like immediately you're like, yeah, we're capital M movie. So I think a lot of my praise for Batman Begins low-key just comes from the shock value of immediately watching that after the MCU movies and just seeing, holy shit, this is what movies look like again. I forgot for a bit. But I love Batman Begins. Great origin. Definitely a mess as well. The third act kind of goes a little bit off the rails. But I really like really love this movie. I think it's a great origin, an introduction to the Nolan trilogy, and just looks great. Love the filmmaking. But let's see, who's 7? You are 7, so it's back to you now.
Yeah, I'm 7. I'm sad seeing Batman. I mean, Batman Begins. That's my 5 spot. So that kicks off my Nolan 5 stars.
Gotcha.
But I love that movie, man. There are days I watch Batman Begins and I'm like, I think this might be better than the Batman. Like, that's how good. I think it pulls awesome inspiration from some of my favorite graphic novels. You know, The Man Who Falls. Year One is one of my favorites. Legend of the Dark Knight. You know, they're just such foundational like Batman lore that's infused into this movie, and it's so brilliant. But yeah, now we're moving into I have 7 and 5. You got 6. So my next one would be Dunkirk. Again, I mean, it's still a 4.5. Like, it's so weird seeing a movie ranked like 7 on my list, or it's 8 on my personal list, and that I rate a 4.5. Like, I think this is such a phenomenal war outing. You know, we just recorded our ReelTok episode talking about Ari Aster's like transition from like elevated horror with demons to the cults to Beau is Afraid to a COVID era political satire. I don't think Nolan gets enough credit for just how many times he's reinvented himself. You know, he's doing the Batman trilogy. In the middle of doing the Batman trilogy, you know, he drops The Prestige. You know, then he drops Inception, and this happens in between Dark Knight trilogy movies. And then, you know, he moves on to Interstellar and science fiction, and he moves into giving us one of the greatest biopics of all time. This absolute mind fucking Tenet. Like, his range is absolutely unbelievable, and I think Dunkirk is just such a phenomenal war outing. I absolutely love it. I love that it's just so heavily reliant on war and not like narrative beats and dialogue. Obviously, it can get emotional with the particular, like the boat sequences, you know, the initial bombing sequences. And I think there are moments that are just absolutely fucking brilliant in this movie. But yeah, it's a very good movie. It's a very good movie. And I'm so excited for the Odyssey, because I'm so excited to just have to revisit all of his films.
Yeah, I love Dunkirk. When I first saw it in theaters, I was in college and I went with a roommate of mine, and I was a little disappointed because I think at the time you're expecting these grand films, and this film's like an hour 40. You're normally used to like 2 hour 40 epics from Nolan. And I was like a little bummed. I was like, oh, this is like, it was fine, but I wasn't the exciting movie I was expecting it to be. But then years later, after rewatching it once or maybe twice more, I really appreciate it so much more, because I think maybe the shock value of it not being like the same scale as like an Inception, Interstellar disappointed me a bit. But then when you watch it outside of that vacuum, know what you're in for, I really think it is a great war film. But none of my top 5 have been picked yet. But my number 9 is still The Dark Knight. So unfortunately, this is where it's going to have to go.
Yeah.
You got it from 8 to 6. So your veto is well used. You're moving it up a bit. But I don't know. My top 5 is still all intact, and this is number 9. So I just can't stomach. If I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 9, I kind of got to go with my 9 spot, put in the 6. But The Dark Knight, I mean, I don't really have anything to say about it. I know it's tattooed on you and you love it. And
yeah, I mean,
everyone has their Dark Knight takes, but yeah.
Tragic. I mean, it always has been. You know, I say Dune is my favorite movie now, but then I rewatch The Dark Knight and I'm like reminded of not only why I fell in love with film, but like why I fell in love with the character of Batman and why I fell in love with Christopher Nolan. And I don't know. I think above all, one thing I don't think Christopher Nolan gets enough credit for in his Dark Knight trilogy is just his understanding of Batman lore is so unbelievable. And I think the laziest criticism in film right now is that The Dark Knight is held up by the Heath Ledger performance, because that's such an easy way to tell me, 1, you don't understand the character of Batman, and 2, you don't understand just how much Christopher Nolan understands the character of Batman. You know, loyalty and sacrifice, this commitment to justice. You know, he suffers quietly, but he has this endless battle of saving Gotham City. Like, he truly understands this character better than most filmmakers have ever approaching the character of Batman. And I hate that argument that it's a film that's held up by one singular performance. Obviously, an all-time great performance, one of the greatest supporting performances ever. But if you throw out that take, I'm going to immediately stop taking most of your film opinions seriously, because it just tells me that you have no idea the amount of effort that went into producing and creating The Dark Knight. It tells me that you have no idea about the character of Batman. And that's just so funny to believe that someone will watch The Dark Knight, watch all of these insane set pieces, watch all of these incredibly nuanced and emotional performances and sequences, and still dumb this entire 2-hour and 20-minute film down to one singular performance. It's one of my least favorite criticisms in film, and I hear it all that often from idiots.
Yeah, I'm really low on some other performances in the film, like Aaron Eckhart and Maggie Gyllenhaal. I don't love, but I'm not. I would never say Heath Ledger is like carrying it with his performance. Even though I don't love the other performances as much, there's so much outside of just Heath Ledger's performances. Like you said, the action set pieces, the spectacles, the explosions, how real the Chicago Gotham feels. Yeah, there's so much greatness going on beyond just the Joker in this movie. That even though I don't love some of the other performances, there's still so much to love about this movie. But what do you got for number 5?
Yeah, number 5. Number 5 for me is going to be Tenet. Just I think right now I have Tenet and Prestige battling back and forth for like that 5 and 6 spot, but I also think it kind of falls into that Memento, Dunkirk, Prestige, Tenet area of this ranking, where it's just films that I just need to rewatch before I like truly solidify a Nolan rank. But yeah, I mean, I have nothing but fond memories about Tenet, you know.
Yeah, we'll talk about Tenet a little more later, because for now I'm going to veto. So we'll throw a veto out for Tenet. So I got one veto left. You got to make another decision for number 5.
Yeah, then it's the Prestige, which I think is also like your top 2 or 3 maybe now with Oppie in the mix. But yeah, the Prestige is going to be that number 6 spot now.
5 spot.
5 spot, my bad. I love the Prestige. I really do. Again, a film I haven't rewatched in a long time. It's one of my best friend's favorite movies. And I think in the 2 years that we lived together in college, we probably watched it like 4 or 5 times. Really, really phenomenal, magical outing. It's it's this film about magicians that's just turned into this really awesome thriller, cat and mouse, back and forth type narrative. And I really enjoy this film. But again, it just falls into like that second wave of Nolan films for me that like I just need to rewatch.
Yeah, I was fully planning on during like your whole speech about the Prestige that this is going to be another veto for me just to push up, because then I could guarantee both those would be in the top 3, because your next pick would be number 3. But as you kept talking, I was like, Prestige still is my number 3 film. That's not changing. So like it's still 2 above, but I'm not going to veto it just because similar to how like I think The Dark Knight just works better in a collaborative ranking for being truly collaborative, but Batman Begins. I mean, Tenet's definitely arguable, but I think the other 3, I mean, I don't know why I'm like hiding them. Like people don't know what the movies are. Interstellar, Inception, and Oppenheimer. I think it just works to have those above the Prestige, even though I personally am like such a big fan of the Prestige and like those more, like that more than some of these other ones. For a collaborative ranking of us trying to accomplish like a true Christopher Nolan collab ranking, I think it just works a little better. I know The Dark Knight is lower than most people have it, but at least I think the Prestige makes a little more sense to be lower than, even though personally I was fully planning on vetoing you as well. So I could get the Prestige and Tenet both in the top 3, but we're going to keep the Prestige there. And the 4 left, I probably am just going to keep that veto in my back pocket. But number 4 for me is going to be, because this is my last real pick, because then you get 3, 2, and then 1 is just whatever's left. So this is really my last mark on the draft. And this is a film for me, which is tough. It's actually a tough decision between these two, because of all these rankings of Christopher Nolan, it's a very tight ranking, but I don't think any 2 movies are tighter in my ranking than these 2 movies I'm choosing between for this, which I'm going to post a new Christopher Nolan ranking video on TikTok. I have it like scheduled for while we're in New York, and I actually switched these rankings even without rewatching them, just based on where I'm currently feeling about the film. And it's a private list on Letterboxd. So if you're listening to this, it might be public by the time you listen to this, but These two films are so neck and neck for me, but I made the decision to flip where I have them. So number 4, I'm going to be putting Interstellar.
Fuck.
Interstellar at the 4. There's another film when it gets picked in the next 3 picks, so I'll talk about what is neck and neck, but they're like so neck and neck that it's to the point where it's like just like I flip a coin and say which one I like more. But Interstellar is where I'm going to go. Grandiose in every sense of the word, a spectacle of filmmaking. The Matt Damon of it all was just one of the biggest shocks when I first saw it in theaters. The score is all-timer, but you could kind of say all-timer about almost all Christopher Nolan movies with scores from usually like Hans Zimmer, Ludwig Göransson. But Interstellar makes me cry, beautifully emotional. Matthew McConaughey at his very best. You get a young Timmy performance. Every character in this is pretty great. The ending, I really like. I'm not critiquing anything. It's a 4.5 for me. At one point, it was a 5-star. The ending is a little bit too neatly packaged. Maybe I know a lot of people the people who hate Interstellar despise the ending. So I really like the ending still, but I can see on more recent rewatches, I'm like, yeah, this might just be a little too coincidental for where I'm going, where I was kind of hoping this would go. But I think it really.
Tyler is cutting out like crazy right now, or maybe I'm cutting out like crazy right now.
All right, I'm back, I think.
Yeah, you just cut out.
Yeah, I saw that, but I think I'm back. But yeah, Interstellar, love it, but just gonna have it at 4 because it's so neck and neck with the other one that I would have. Well, technically, I have it at 5, and then my number 4 is close. But yeah, I know you're not happy with this pick.
I mean, I'm just not happy that neither of my top 2 made it into the top 3 here. So it's a rough outing, for George Carmi. Tough day to be movies and stuff 14.
But you get the next 2 picks. You get to really put the final
stamp. Yeah, I mean, I get to put the final stamp on it. So, I mean, not the Prestige. Wait, what films do we have left? Oh, right, Tenet. Sorry. I forgot you vetoed the Tenet already. So, Tenet's going to be number 3. Definitely got to rewatch it, but I know you love that movie. I think is that your number 3 or your number 2?
My number 2. And
yeah, that's
some days I'll consider it my number 1, but not as much as I do between Interstellar and the other one that are neck and neck for me.
Yeah, and then I mean my top 2, it's I don't know. It's impossible. I it's like you just said, these 2 for me flip back and forth very often. Like when I look at my Nolan ranking, Dark Knight, Interstellar are 1 and 2, and I don't know if anything's going to pass that. Actually, the Odyssey's coming out, so maybe that hopefully passes it. But as of right now, I don't think a lot of rewatches will change those top 2. And then you have like my 3, 4, and 5, which are Batman Begins, Oppie, and Inception, and those are quite interchangeable for me as well. Batman Begins is already off the board though, so I'm going to toss Oppenheimer at 2. I love the movie so much. I really do. There are days where I'll watch Oppenheimer and I'll think this is Nolan's best. There are days where I'll watch any Nolan movie and I'll think this is Nolan's best. But when I like really evaluate me as a film goer, I'll always pick the science fiction film. No matter how much I love the Oppenheimer biopic, no matter how much I love Cillian Murphy in the film, I'll always just be more attracted to this world of dreams that Christopher Nolan has created, this insane labyrinth of memory and loss and trauma and science fiction. And believe it or not, I think Inception might have like my favorite ensemble of any Nolan film. Like obviously you look at like Oppenheimer and it's this like crazy long list of incredible A-list actors, but I don't know. I love the combination of Leonardo DiCaprio, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Tom Hardy, Elliot Page, Cillian Murphy. I think they all work together so brilliantly. And then, of course, you throw in Michael Caine and it just becomes absolutely beautiful. So, yeah, I think I would rather see Inception at the top of this list.
Yeah, well, you can't take it with you to the grave.
I know you got your veto.
So I'll do it just because the movie I was alluding to with Interstellar and Inception, those 2 are so neck and neck from between 5 and 4 that any flip of the coin. But Inception, I had an experience rewatching Inception, I don't know, half a year ago that I think a lot of people have at our stage of our film journey, quote unquote, where we're a little deeper into it than the first diving in element, where you watch Inception and many other Christopher Nolan movies when you're young or like newer to films and you're like, this is amazing, this is the best thing I've ever seen. Then you watch more films and you stray away from it and you're like, maybe those are all film bro-y movies. Maybe they're not as good. Maybe they're overrated. And, people who only watch 5 movies are the ones who really love them. But then you go back and revisit them, you're like, no, these are actually that great. And I think Christopher Nolan's awesome on that level where you can love him as a casual movie watcher, and then you can find a whole new level of appreciation for him when you start to really dive into film even more. And Inception, I watch him like, yeah, holy shit, this movie really is what it is cracked up to be. But for me, it's in my 4 spot, with Interstellar my 5. So Oppenheimer is in my 1. It's between that and Tenet for what my favorite movie is of Christopher Nolan. So that's what I would rather have at 1. But I think
it's a deserving one. It's a deserving one.
Yeah, I mean, I could have vetoed Tenet again to get that up to 2 or something. But
yeah,
I like collaborative draft, at least like try and accomplish something together rather than just trying to screw over the other person. Whereas, like The Dark Knight's not nearly as high as you want. And there's some other movies that are like 3 spots lower or higher than I would want them. But I think ultimately there's like pretty solid overall with not too much craziness going on. Like I know some people really love Dunkirk and Memento, but I think they're probably in the best spot for them. Dark Knight Rises being lower. But yeah, that's kind of where our collab ranking ends. Worked out like, because initially we are going to have this be 3 persons. So I had to quickly scramble like who the draft picks are for 2 people. But I think it worked out well where you had the more power of the picks, but I was able to kind of like use my lack of power in picks by using the vetoes to help push things up. But I don't know. That's where our ranking is. What's your kind of final takeaway of this exercise?
I mean, listen, like I said, it's tough not seeing either of my top 2, even in the top 3. So, not pleased, but I mean, listen, that's what happens with collaborative rankings when you have 2 people with very varying opinions on one filmmaker.
But again, it's Christopher Nolan where we like boboth like love all of his movies, basically
exactly
9 up.
Like,
so
I'm looking at this, 5-star, 5-star, 4.5, 5, 5, 5, 4.5, 5, 4.5, 4, 3.5, probably unrated. But yeah,
Following is the only Christopher Nolan movie that if I was in a random room with people and they threw it on, I'd be like, oh, let's watch something else. Any of the other 11, if someone turned on any of the other 11, I'd be like,
I'd be locked in. I'd be fucking dialed. Damn, I might watch a Nolan movie tonight. Actually, that's a lie. I actually think I'm watching Superman again tonight.
Oh, sick. Well, that'll do for a collab ranking of Christopher Nolan. Let us know down below again what I guess the biggest hot takes here are for you, but also if you want to see that Nolan Villeneuve collab draft combined. Shout out James Palmer for the recommendation. Patrons, we're going to see you tomorrow for a review of Jurassic Shark. Everyone else, we're going to see you on Monday for Fantastic Four and in-person Real Talk. Peace.